Well, I have to say, it certainly wouldn't be bringing a small little potted plant to the fray. No, you just got to be authentic, man. Play it down the line. So now we're going to turn things to our children, now that I've dodged that question so expertly. And we're talking about change, and it's something that I think affects adults so much that we even have an entire field of psychology built around it. But what about our kids? They've got to learn those skills early on, and luckily our creative parenting expert, Nikki Bush, joins us in studio to give advice on how parents can help their child adjust to change.
Now, there's that saying that goes, the only thing in life that is constant is change. And that is very, very true. It's especially true for our children, and particularly at the beginning of a new year. Now, this morning we chat to our creative parenting expert, Nikki Bush, to understand the ups and downs of change for children. Nikki, lovely to have you back in studio. So here we go, Parenting 101, going into 2017. Now, I've dealt with this. You know, my boy went to his first big preschool. There was a lot of change. So this is why I'm glad you are here to help us out. But what are the kind of changes that we are talking about when we look at childhood?
Well, childhood is really characterised by a lot of change, especially in the very early years, those babies and toddlers. They're going through an immense amount of physical change. Think of a baby uncurling from the fetal position to sitting, to crawling, to walking, to standing. It's huge. And then they get bigger, they start losing their teeth, and they start becoming more independent. They can feed themselves, they can go to the toilet by themselves, they can ride bicycles. A lot of change. And every time they look in the mirror, I think something has changed.
Absolutely.
And you look through your photo albums and you can see this continuum of change. Yeah. But change, although they live with change a lot, especially in the sort of 0 to 5-year-old age category, they often can't verbalise any of the anxiety that maybe that change brings about, especially when there are changes in their external environment, like going to a new school.
Exactly. We're talking, like, let's say we're talking about babies, you know, or very young toddlers who's not able to speak yet, like you were saying. So how do we recognise those changes? Because they do certainly affect the youngsters as well.
Absolutely. And they often manifest physically and emotionally. Okay. So, for example, you've got a child who's still in nappies, who hasn't had a nappy rash for months, suddenly comes up with a nappy rash. You've got a child who has given away their dummy at the age of maybe 2 or 3, and suddenly they want the dummy back. They've got into a lovely sleep routine. Suddenly the sleep routine goes out the window. They get fussy with their food when they've been actually fine. And this is how we see that they are internalizing and processing change. They might become a little more clingy and whingy for a while as they accommodate these changes, and then they start to settle. So that's how we know that these kids are actually a little bit anxious.
Yeah. So what tips can you give then for parents, specifically looking at your younger children, babies, toddlers, going to preschool maybe, just dealing with these changes, and how can parents kind of recognise and deal with it?
So the big piece of advice for children, for parents with young children, is to minimise the number of external changes you make all at once. The poor child who goes through a house change, a school change, and a new sibling arriving all in the same month, it's a disaster zone. Then we really have massive regression. So try and stick to, if possible, one change at a time. As you've just experienced, it's enough. It's enough. Yeah. So what we need to do is almost handle our children over those periods of time with equal amounts of comfort and firmness. Okay. If we buy in to all the drama, then they know that they can actually control the situation. We also need to be firm. So while we might maybe read an extra long bedtime story, give a few more extra cuddles during the day, use lots of positive words around them. You're a big boy, I know you can cope with this change. It's going to be just fine. We also need to be firm when we're saying goodbye to them at school. Because actually our fears often we pass on to our children. And for the most part, they are a lot more adaptable than we think they are, and a lot more capable.
They play off on you as well a little bit. They're clever. They're very clever.
They pick up on, you know, our anxiety, it's amazing. It's a little bit like poison. You know, it just, they pick it up. They are so perceptive. Unbelievably perceptive. Those little antennae are up. They're there. And they pick it up. And they will use it for their own advantage if they can.
Absolutely. Oh, our poor parents. Man, I can only imagine, you know. But it's, you know, I'm dealing with it now. I can imagine what my parents went through, you know, when I was a youngster as well. It is tough. It really is tough.
I mean, I remember going to school and, you know, change of class. And, you know, we talk about now older children going to school. New timetable, new teachers. We talk about maybe a new school, new friends, because what if you've been put in a class with none of your friends from last year?
Yeah.
That's a massive, massive change for a child. Awesome. And it can take them 2 or 3 weeks to really settle.
Let's just get into it. Right. Well, we are going to be focusing on the changes that older kids deal with a little bit later on this morning with our parenting expert, Nikki Bush.